Hey there, LA Little TA today. Are you a day trader? Do you try to trade during the day? You know, if you are a day trader, if you want to be a day trader, it's a very, fashionable thing to do. It can make you a lot of money. Matter of fact, with a $50,000 account, you ought to be putting 500 a day in your bank. That's the way I look at it, and that's what I do when I trade during the day. I set the goal of $500 to $1,000, and if I can't make that, then I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. So, you may be skeptical. How do you do that? To me, you just do what you do on daily and weekly charts. You just do it on different time frames. So let's kind of go through the process here of what you do. The first thing you have to do is decide what you're going to, trade. And I've just I pulled up the SPY and the Qs. These are what I typically trade, and it's because it's easy, right? These are the futures. These are the 10-minute and the 10-minute on the Qs, the 30-minute, the 30-minute, and then I also flip over and look at the daily for my long-term trend. So what am I interested in? I'm interested in trend. What's the trend? Long-term on a day trade, the trend is up, right? It's just definitely up. And so your bias has to be the upside. The next thing is, what is it doing on the intermediate term time frame, right? Which is the weekly. Well, it's all over the place this morning. I'm doing this recording, it looks like 12:11, about an hour and a half into the market, right? Into the open. Overnight, this thing traded way down in this area. Matter of fact, about where it traded this morning. And so this market carved out a big gap down, both of them, and on the Qs and the SPYs, and then it proceeded to trade. Now, why did it get this big bounce? What's going on? Well, this gets into market internals, right? And one of the things you want to do if you're going to day trade is you're going to be aware of the structure of the market. In other words, what moves what. If you think about the market, the first thing you should think about is the sectors. What are the major sectors? XLK, SOX, MAGs, those are the tech sectors. Those are the primary ones. If they're down, Qs are going to be down, most likely, right? Everything else falls in the SPYs, right, and helps the SPYs. And so when you look at the difference here in terms of what's going on, you can see that the SPY is down 0.3, Qs are down 1%. So a lot worse off on the Qs than the SPYs. Well, if that's the case, and if my bias is long, what do I want to trade? I want to trade the strongest. Now, the Russell actually is stronger today, so you could trade it, but I typically focus just on a couple of these. Qs and the SPYs, plenty for me. I can bank all day long just on those two. The next thing you want to know when you're looking at this is you want to ask yourself, okay, inside this, how are things trading? And if I go here and I look at the internals, I can see that the advancing issues are about 2 to 1 and the volumes are positive. And this was true all morning long, right on the open, right? And so that gives me more confidence that the SPYs are probably going to outperform the Qs. Now, if I wanted to, I could pair trade these things, short this one, go long that one, but I typically try to just simply go long or short one of them. And that's the bias. Now, inside of all that, right, you have to have a system. What do you use to know when to trade something? For example, when you see this little reversal down here, is that a good reversal? Is it going to work? Well, let's blow it up and look at it real quick. This is the SPY. You came down, right? Straight down. In other words, you came from all the way from this close straight down. That's a pretty good push. And then you get a little reversal up underneath here. Now, what I would like to do if I'm a trader is I would like to catch that reversal and buy somewhere near this low. But in this particular case, it didn't give you that. So you got to figure out another spot on the way up. And if you need, you can drop to even lower time frames. You could go down to a 2-minute time frame. Sometimes I do this looking for a trade. So here's your reversal, that same reversal we were just looking at. So if I see a reversal coming, I may switch over to the 2-minute just to find the entry. Well, in this particular case, I don't even like this entry, right? Because I have this amount of volume, and then I have this amount of volume on the spike. So I have more volume, right, on the reversal. The good thing here, and this is all candlestick right now, is you got some long tails that are taking place down here. That's typically, when you get these wide moves and you start getting long tails, that's typically telling you that you're getting close to some sort of a reversal. And then, of course, the reversal took place. Now, this one was hard to catch. You either had to momentum trade it on the way back up, or you had to wait and catch something like, a little dip on the way up. So that's kind of an idea. Now, you know me, I'm neoclassical. And so what I'm focused on is what's happening from a neoclassical perspective technically. So let's quickly look at what that looks like. And I've got a lot of things drawn on here. I use shorthand notations to try to keep track of things during the day. So all these little bars that you see here, these are all swing points. And so I'm just identifying where the lows are, where the highs are, right? There was one here. But as the day progresses, I keep updating these as I'm going along and trading. And the reason for that is I want to know where the retest regions are. I want to know where the breakouts are. And so, for example, let's take this one. There was a retest region right here off the open. And the low of that retest region was right in this area, and it blew it away. Well, that told me I don't want to buy. Now, had it held here and started back up, I would have been a buyer. So I'm looking for those kinds of situations in the market during the day, both on a 30-minute, a 10-minute, and on the daily chart itself. These blue lines, that's the bullish retest region on a daily. If I actually pop this over to a daily chart, that's your bullish retest region right there. And I'll blow it up so you can see it better. But this is the swing point high. And so I've marked it with a different color so I know that that's a daily bullish retest region. And what did it do? Got down to the bottom of it. It's trying to regenerate just like yesterday, right? Yesterday got down to the bottom, regenerated. Today, test again. Where is it? It's regenerating right now. That's the sort of thing that you can do intraday. You see me do this a lot on all my videos. And so you kind of familiar with it. And if you're not, pick up a couple of the books. There's 2 books out there on Amazon. You can check them out yourself. Trend Trading Setups is the second one. The first one was Trend Qualification and Trading. Both of them outline and explain this process. Come over to the website if you want and read. The material is free. It's just 2 weeks delayed. So you can actually read everything I write. You just have to wait. Right? You can't. It's not actionable by the time you read it, but you can see what's going on. You can learn. I'm trying to teach, trying to help you. So as I'm recording this, I actually just took a trade live, and that is that I'm sitting here looking at this Tesla, right? And Tesla's a hot stock, right? It moves a lot, has a lot of value. You kind of got, if you're a head and shoulders kind of person, you kind of got a head and shoulders here. If you're neoclassical, I'm going to blow this up. This is on a 2-minute. If you're neoclassical, this is the high of the low. You come back in a lot of times to test that. This was, the reversal was here. You can see the reversal, right? Goes lower, gets a little hammer reversal, right? Starts up, and then it fades back in. The buy is on the fade. What you're looking for is to get as close as possible to that low. And so when it comes in here and it just kind of holds, the buy is in this area. Now it tests you here, right? But then it finally takes off. Now notice, once you get the takeoff, you get a clue over here that the thing is ending right there. Lower volume, test of the top, right? Can't get over it, can't hold over it, right? You're also coming into, if you go back over here, you're coming into the low of the high, right? These are all classical and neoclassical things that I look at. And so the sell is here on this bar. That once that bar fails, right, or is about to fail, you got to sell, and you either do it on this bar or that bar. And so you get the run from your buy, back down in this area somewhere, up to there. Let's just say you're trading 100 shares. You put $44,000 out there, and you just took a trade from, let's just do the numbers here real quick. You just took a trade from 41.5 up to, let's call it 43, almost 44. So you picked up 2.5 on 100 shares, $250. All you gotta do is twice you get your 500, right? And this thing's going to set up again. It's going to set up one more time. And let's just look at it real quick. And again, I'm just focused on this time frame right now. Here's your swing points. So these are your bullish retest regions. You're going to want to let it get as close as you can down to this area here, right? Your stops are going to be up underneath. And this time you're shooting for, well, you got this big bar over here that's a problem, right? But you're at least shooting for a test of these highs. That's what you're shooting for. And so again, you're trying to pick it up here, which is about, matter of fact, as I fold this, it's almost there. So you're going to let it get in here. You're going to try and pick it up in this area. That area is about 43.25. And you're going to be shooting for about 46. That's your other $250, right? If that trade works, you've maxed out your money today on 2 trades. That's the sort of setup that you can use, neoclassically intraday to make bank. Hope that helps. Again, I'd love to see comments. What fancies you? What do you want to see more of? And subscribe to the channel. Take care. See you next time.